I have grown up in New Delhi. My relatives are from, we originally are from Bihar, but I've grown up in a colony which was a refugee colony in Delhi. It was actually made for people who came to Delhi after the 1947 partition. There are several colonies like this. I grew up in one of them.
My grandparents, both maternal and paternal, migrated from Calcutta, India at the time of partition, and they settled in Lahore. Ever since then, our family has been settled in Lahore, and pretty much there was a lot of ethnic mixing because a lot of people got married into Punjabis. Although by race, I myself am a Bengali from West Bengal, Calcutta.
I was born and brought up in Calcutta. My family has its roots in Bangladesh, and I've lived all my life in Calcutta. That's where I received my education as well. I shifted to Delhi for work purposes, and I've been there for 2 years now.
I'm originally from Pakistan, where I grew up in Rawalpindi. My maternal grandfather, my Nana, migrated from Jalandhar, India to Faisalabad, Pakistan, which is where he met my grandmother post-partition.
But growing up and having seen those families, interacting with them, playing with as kids we would all play together, and that really shaped me on what partition means, from depoliticizing partition, in the sense seeing it from a very humanitarian lens. There were people who suffered, there were people who left their belongings everywhere. I used to speak to grandmothers who would relive their tales of partition, and that for me really brought out the human side of partition.
So I like having my family's roots in Bangladesh. Partition is of course is a very sensitive topic, and it's very close to my heart. Unfortunately, my grandparents passed away before I was born, so I never got the chance to speak and hear their experiences. But for me specifically, like when I visited Bangladesh, it was very cathartic. I felt right in place, and an odd connection, if I may say so. But our house was not there anymore, unfortunately. But it still felt very oddly cathartic for me to visit Bangladesh.
Ironically, at household level, there's a lot of discussion about it because every person that you meet from India, for example, has someone in Pakistan or have some familiarity in Pakistan, and vice versa. Have grown up watching the same movies, same songs, same poetry, same literature to some extent, and just the fact that there's a general awareness in people that there is a hard boundary, but borders are also social, cultural, constructs, and not always territorial and political constructs.
That is an enduring legacy of partition, is that the borders that were drawn have become much harder with time, when I'm not sure that was the intention in 1947.
And going forward, I think this is the legacy which I'd like to carry on, just to remind people of just how interconnected our histories are and talk about our shared experience. I know we're divided by political borders, I know we're divided by geographical borders, and that's not going to change anytime soon. But this shared history and the shared cultural ties is something which will carry forward for forever.
I think it's really important to have oral histories of these people recorded who are still there with us. I think some attempt is already being made in India and Pakistan, but there is a need to sort of have the human side of partition recorded, to depoliticize the discourse that there were people affected. It was not just a country that was divided, it was people, it was families that were divided, and nothing better than oral history to actually bring out that side.
My fear is that in 10-20 years, partition will just be a statistic. It'll just be a fact that people need to remember for their school exams. But my hope is that we can record these histories orally, visually, verbally. Read the literature that was being written at the time of partition and remember it for what it was. It was a seismic event that affected a quarter of the world's population. And so the only people that will be able to recall from a first-hand account are people who are 75 or older. So getting at those stories to truly understand what it was is much more difficult than actually understanding the events that occurred and the stats that we all know. And so that's why I think it is difficult, but it's not impossible.